Hello, and welcome to the 2021 Public Service Career Expo. My name is Jesse Rosoff, and I will be your moderator for today's Human Services session. I have worked in the public sector for the last 8 years, and for the last 5 years, I have worked as a human resource partner at Johnson County Government. We are very excited that you are joining us to learn about one of the many exciting career areas in the public service sector, human services. And if you have not already done so, please have your teacher or whomever is logged into this program write your school's name and the number of students in your classroom in the chat box. We would love to have a record of who's joining us today. Now let's introduce you to the individuals who will be joining us live. You might even recognize them from the video you saw. Please join me in welcoming Brandi Hodges, Community Relations Manager at Johnson County Government's Aging and Human Services Department, Alyssa Cooper, Mental Health Clinician and Team Leader at Johnson County's Mental Health Department, and Donald Lucante, Disease Investigator at Johnson County's Department of Health and Environment. Thank you all for being here today. I'd like to ask each of the presenters to introduce themselves and maybe share how long they've been in their careers, as well as a little bit about the work that they do. Brandi, let's start with you.
All right, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandi Hodges. I'm with Johnson County Aging and Human Services. As Jesse mentioned, I've been in county government for about 19 years, started in the Missouri side, and then, because I went to college in Missouri, and then came over to Kansas, where I've worked for the past 17 years. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in business. In the Department of Aging and Human Services, we serve older adults, people with physical disabilities, and low-income residents. And we try to help people live independent lives and help maintain self-sufficiency. So help them kind of be successful in their own homes and with dignity and support. So that's what our department does. I serve as a manager supervising a team of staff who provide direct services to the public. So thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you so much, Brandi. Delissa, we'll go to you.
Hi, my name is Delissa Cooper, and I'm a clinician and team leader for Johnson County Mental Health. I have been in the social work field for maybe a little over 10 years. I've specifically been at Johnson County Mental Health for the last 8 in a variety of different positions. I recently was promoted to team leader, so I manage therapists, case managers, and peer support workers. We have a variety of sort of mental health services ranging from groups to individual therapy, as well as our case management are sort of our resource requisitions. They know everything about all of the resources in the county. The fun fact is I know that we have some students from Sumner in the building, and I am also a graduate from Sumner. So I'm glad to see you guys here today, and I'm glad to be here.
Great. Thank you, Delissa. And Donald?
Hi, everyone. I'm Donald Lucante. I work with the Johnson County Department of Health and Environment as a disease investigator. I am currently working on the schools team, which was put together so that we can make sure that the kids that are going to school are healthy and safe, keeping anybody who's been infected with COVID-19 out of the schools or exposed to COVID-19 out of the schools. That way we can maintain a safe environment for everyone else to go to school, hang out with their friends, and go to their extracurricular activities. I have a bachelor's degree in biology and also a master's degree in public health with a concentration in epidemiology. Normally, as a disease investigator, I'm supposed to be watching for outbreaks in the community, monitoring those things, and making plans to prevent any future outbreaks or disease issues within the community. But because we're currently in a pandemic, a lot of my attention and a lot of my team's attention has been towards making sure that we are safe against COVID, whether that be doing community vaccine clinics, giving guidance to our local school districts, updating any other guidance to give to the public, and things of that nature.
Great. Thank you all for such great introductions. Thank you. So students, you may have noticed that we talked a little bit about agilities in the video. Just so you know, agilities are defined as personal strengths and interests as they relate to careers. Identifying your agilities can help you as you think about what careers you might like to pursue in the future. So when we're talking about human services, two of the most common agilities are serving and caring and developing others. But let's ask our presenters what agilities they think are important and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis in their job. Delissa, we'll start with you this time.
Okay. I think that developing others is an important agility, especially in our field of work. I've worked as both a case manager and a clinician, so I know firsthand that you're really able to meet people where they are. People are coming to us when they're at a point in their life where they're needing some support, whether that is increased stress or anxiety or depression. So in order to help them develop, we help them recognize how they're feeling and get them the resources that they need, whether that is transportation, food, housing, just learning more skills to manage their own sort of thoughts and behaviors. So we are able to walk alongside with those individuals and help them get to a place of recovery so they have a better quality of life.
Great. Thank you, Delissa. And Donald, how about you?
I think developing others is also a very important trait to have, especially for me working in this field for about 15 months. I would say I'm still relatively new to it, and having a team whose goal is to develop, the newcomers or develop anybody who takes an interest in public health or epidemiology. That's very important because I get to sit next to or work with people who've been doing this for months, for much longer than COVID-19's been here, and listening to those conversations and understanding how they think and just being part of that environment really helps to gain more of an understanding about what I can do and what I need to learn in the future, and will also make me a better epidemiologist or disease investigator in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Donald. And Brandi?
I think developing others is also important, and I agree with what Delissa and Donald also shared. I will just kind of talk a little bit more about serving and caring when working with the older adult population or those with physical disabilities or low-income individuals. A lot of them may be embarrassed because of their situation of needing to ask for help. So someone who has empathy and is willing to serve others and give someone a hand up are definite attributes that we look for in staff that definitely have a heart to want to help others.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, students, you've seen a sneak peek at their working environments. Now it's your turn to ask them questions. We're going to move on to the question and answer portion of the session. Please use the chat box to type in your questions, and we'll work as many as we can. Brandi, I want to start with you. Can you tell us more about the work you do with the elderly?
Sure. One of the bigger parts of our department is working with the elderly or older adult population. One of the bigger programs that most people know about is Meals on Wheels, and that program is providing hot, nutritious meals 5 days a week to older adults who are homebound. Unfortunately, I was one of the very few who didn't know that program existed here in Johnson County before I took this position. But one of the great things is once I did get in this department, I've had the opportunity several times to deliver meals, which is very rewarding because we get to see people firsthand, greet them. For a lot of individuals, it's the only person they see each day. So we're not only delivering a hot meal, we're also providing a safety check, making sure that they're okay. And we just may be that only person they see that day. So it's a great way to give back. And I think one of the most well-known programs, and it's definitely available for the community to volunteer as well.
Great. Very important work you do. Thank you. Delissa, I'm going to ask you this question. How would you describe what you do to your grandmother?
I would probably describe what I do to my grandma by saying, as a therapist, we're sort of talking to people about different stressors in their life, or when they're feeling overwhelmed or feeling like they sort of need some additional help, to have a sounding board with somebody to discuss what's triggering them or what sort of makes them act in a way that they feel like is outside of their norm. I think that sometimes people feel like they can handle everything themselves. So I want to be that person that they come to talk to on a regular basis, so that I help them learn some skills to calm down, manage their anxiety, function at a rate that they feel like they can go to work every day, go to school every day. So through one-on-one time with a therapist, that's something that we can do to make sure that you are ultimately feeling better.
Great. Thank you so much. And Donald, what was your career progression before you worked in your most current position as a disease investigator?
Sure. So I started as an administrator at a local recreation center, just making sure everything was going the way it needed to go. Excuse me, and supervising the staff, making sure any of the recreation activities were going as planned. Then I moved over to the University of Kansas Health System. I was a patient service representative there, where I had face-to-face contact with patients and checked them in and things like that. And then I became a division coordinator, which is more of a management role where I had to wear several hats to make sure everybody was okay, trained, and had everything that they needed to work their daily jobs. And then I applied to the position I'm at now. I decided to follow my supervisor on Twitter, and had some engagement on Twitter before I submitted my resume. And I guarantee that it was the Twitter engagement that caught her eye. Like, hey, I know that guy. I'm going to give him a shot. And then the rest is history. I've been here for 15 months. I've been enjoying every minute of it, and here I am.
Great, thank you. And I think that story illustrates having the passion behind it can really help doing what you do. So Delissa, this is directed to you. Can you tell me about entry-level jobs in your field? And if somebody wanted to explore the field and didn't have a college degree, what sort of jobs could they do?
Sure. Particularly at Johnson County Mental Health, we have a lot of entry-level jobs in the sense that we call them direct care staff. Johnson County Mental Health Center is sort of a larger umbrella. We have ACT, which is the Adolescent Center for Treatment. They do substance use treatment for kids, teenagers rather. And then we have our Crisis Recovery Center. They are a sort of stabilization place for people to either get restarted on their meds or sort of be monitored for safety reasons. We have direct care staff that work in those positions. You don't need a degree. As long as you sort of have a passion for working with other people and wanting to serve them, then that might be a good fit for you. I started as a tech a long time ago at ACT, and then we also have a case manager assistant. That person is sort of responsible for teaching somebody skills or educating them on their symptoms or helping them with daily things in their household, whether that is cleaning up or following directions. You don't need a degree for that either. For case managers, it kind of varies. Sometimes we outweigh experience with education. So you could apply for a case manager. I think that job entails exactly what it is. If somebody is sort of struggling with different parts of their life, the case manager helps them navigate different systems, whether that is support for getting food or transportation or housing or employment. I was a case manager before I was a clinician while I went through grad school. So there are different various positions that you could get here if you sort of had the passion and wanted to help other people as a way to figure out if this is something that you wanted to do in the field.
Great, thank you so much. Brandi, what would you say is some of the most surprising things about the work you do?
Some of the most surprising things about the work that we do, I think I shared it in the video, is just that one of the things is that people don't realize about human services and the working with low-income residents is that a lot of people are just one disaster away from needing assistance. And I definitely can say that I was in that boat, not too long ago, where a lot of people, in today's society live paycheck to paycheck. So if, you were in a car accident or something terrible happened in your life and you were unable to work, or just like the pandemic happened and a lot of people their hours were restricted or they lost their job, a lot of people were seeking assistance that never needed assistance before. So I think that's what the most eye-opening and surprising thing about our field is that we serve every zip code. We work in Johnson County government, so we're serving every zip code in Johnson County. So you may have, a stereotype of who you think that low-income people look like, but in reality, it's anyone. Anyone could be affected by a job loss, a death, an illness, anything like that. And so that's why it's really important people know that we're available and that we have a lot of support services in place that could help people if they do need help and support.
Great. That's some really good insight. Thank you so much. Donald, what are some of the projects or tasks that you may do on a typical workday?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, I'm on the schools team here at Johnson County Health Department. So we try to make sure that the school is the safest place possible in this COVID environment that we are currently in. So we have our case investigators. If we get a case from the school or if someone tests positive for COVID-19, we'll initiate an interview with that person to determine their onset dates, if they've had any contact with any other individuals, and then determine when they can return to their normal activities after their infectious period, which is normally about 10 days from the onset of their symptoms or 10 days from the test date if they did test. And then any exposed individuals, since they have a risk of becoming sick because they've been in contact with someone who tested positive, we want to make sure they're out of school too. So we try to make sure we do investigations for them too and make sure that we give them dates that we give them dates where they can sit out and make sure that they don't get sick, and then they can return to school safely as well. And we do all this to make sure that school is as safe as possible, that there is there's the most minimum risk for anybody going to school and doing extracurricular activities and hanging out with friends. Because right now, school is one of the most important things that we have in our society, where kids can continue to be quote unquote normal in this new kind of normal that we've gotten with COVID.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, this is going to be an open question to all of you, but instead of having all of you answer at the same time, if you could just raise your hand, then I'll call on you. Did any of you pursue a higher education while working? And what made you make that decision, and how did you make that work? So, Delissa, I saw you shaking your head. Okay, I'll go ahead and ask that.
Yeah, I'll go first. I've always worked and went to school at the same time. Initially, I think I sort of got into the field because I had the passion to want to help other people. I started off by working at Wyandotte Mental Health Center. I used to run psychosocial groups, sort of teaching kiddos social skills and how to get along better with their peers or their parents. So during that time, I was like, I think this is something I want to do full time. So I started to go to school for psychology major at first. I like learning about the brain and sort of how it works. And that led me down a path of being a social worker. I went to KU. So I used to still work at Wyandotte Mental Health Center while I attended classes. Things were sort of flexible in the sense that we had evening groups. So that worked for having a daytime schedule. Then I transitioned from my bachelor's program to a master's program. I worked here at Johnson County Mental Health as a case manager part-time. It kind of made the schoolwork easier because I was already doing those things in real life. So I was able to apply those same things to writing the papers in grad school and sort of getting to see firsthand what I would already be jumping into after I graduated with my master's.
Great. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Brandi. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was just going to share, I'm kind of the backwards person. I went to school and got my degree in criminal justice and did that career for 7 years. And then kind of like what I talked about in my last answer, just when people are about one emergency away from needing assistance, that happened in my sister's life, ironically, and she actually got a divorce and was a military wife and had to move back from Hawaii, unfortunately, to Kansas. And so she needed some extra family support, and we didn't have any local family. So I took a voluntary demotion and came over to Aging and Human Services, which was a lot less stress at the time. And I found a professional mentor that invested in me and really saw potential in me that I hadn't seen in myself. And I really loved the field that I was working in, and she really encouraged me to get my master's degree. So while working and helping my sister with her kiddos, I was able to get my master's degree, which I have been able to utilize in this department. And I think that that's great that Johnson County also offers some educational reimbursement if you're wanting to go back to school or go to school while you are working. They do offer some of that, so that definitely took the load off financially for my family and my situation.
Great. Thank you so much. Donald, what would you say is the hardest part about your job?
I think the hardest part about my job is telling kids or staff that they can't go to school because they're sick or exposed. Because I know for some, there are very few bright spots in this new era that we've entered into, and talking to parents and talking to the kids and saying that, oh, you can't go to school, your kid can't go to school because they've been infected or exposed. It can be a very hard thing because you know that, especially for parents, they do have jobs to go to and other things to worry about. Kids, they have extracurricular activities, they have friends they want to hang out with. Maybe staying home isn't the best environment for them for other reasons. That like maybe they're food insecure, something of that nature. So that's definitely the hardest part. But at the same time, like that's just something we have to do. And I keep on saying, hammering this home, like we want the school environment to be as safe as possible. That way, kids can continue to do those things when they're healthy or when they become healthy. School's always going to be that constant that's there for them whenever they're ready to come back.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask each of you this question. We'll start with you, Delissa. And I know you've explained overall what you do. And there may be no typical day, but I'm going to ask you, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, I think I can sort of explain what it might look for different roles here. So because I supervise a team of case managers, our case managers are able to meet people where they are, whether that's in the home or having appointments in the community. They will be working with individuals to make sure that they have their basic needs met first, and then sort of working towards other things that they're wanting to do. We specifically manage the young adult team, so we see people from ages 17 to 23. A lot of the issues that I feel like we run into with our young adults is needing housing or wanting to figure out how to go to college, wanting to be employed, having transportation. So our case managers are helping them navigate how to manage their mental health symptoms while they're still able to work and go to school in the community. So a typical day for them could look like having maybe 4 appointments with different individuals, whether that's helping them go get their driver's license or their birth certificate or helping them fill out applications. For our clinicians, they primarily provide individual therapy. They also lead groups. A typical day for them might be seeing those individuals for individual therapy or consulting with the case manager on a difficult case. In some instances, crises happen where people are a danger to themselves or other people. We have the ability to respond to their homes and help sort of de-escalate the situation and get them to a safe place. As the team leader for all of that, it's sort of about coordination and making sure that everything is sort of organized and things are appropriately staffed and we have the right resources, providing them with that sort of clinical supervision for if they're needing some support or direction on where to go in a case. In honesty, yesterday, I probably was in more of a role of a clinician. I did a couple assessments to make sure that we got individuals who needed some safety to our crisis recovery center. Today, we have this live video, so it just varies day to day. You have to be able to sort of be flexible and adapt if things are changing.
Great. So organization would definitely be something that you would have to be good at to do your job, right?
True. Very true.
Okay. And I'm going to follow up with asking you, do you feel you're making a difference in the career that you've chosen? And if so, how?
I absolutely feel that I'm making a difference because the way that which we meet people, sometimes they're at a point in their life where they're just needing somebody to listen to them or needing some support and validation. I think we get overwhelmed with lots of different things in the world. So to me, making a difference can be very small. Recovery is sort of on a spectrum of things. We have a kiddo who had her first episode with psychosis. So she sort of lost the ability to do things that she used to and sort of quit caring for herself. We've seen her for maybe 2 months and she is back caring for herself. She's able to leave the house again. So the most rewarding part of the job for me is being able to see recovery on a large scale. The sense of things that you weren't able to do before, you're now able to do, for me, is a win. And we are able to sort of instill that hope in these individuals that they'll be able to keep going.
Great. That is awesome. Thank you. Donald, I'm going to ask you the same. First part of the question would be typical workday. I know there's probably no such thing, but if you can kind of summarize what a day might look like in your position.
Sure. My day is usually filled with spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets. We are making sure that we have all of our cases and contacts in a spreadsheet ready for our case investigators to contact any of the infected individuals or exposed individuals. That way we can get that information to the schools. We're also answering any questions the schools have, giving recommendations, any guidance that they may ask for any weird cases that happen in their schools. We're having meetings about what's going on in the school districts. We're having meetings about the guidance that we receive from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment and how that changes our local guidance. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of team work involved in a lot of that, what we do. And it's actually right now it's pretty stable because we're all only focused on COVID-19 and how to make things safe for everyone. Hopefully in the future, it'll be more varied. I know that we are sprinkling in some other things like health equity projects or social justice projects where we're trying to reduce the amount of contacts that Black and brown individuals have with the justice system here in Johnson County or in detention centers, or having alternative to detention centers in Johnson County. So there are things that are sprinkling in that's more for a normal era of my employment here or of the health department's tenure, but right now it's COVID heavy. So we're just, living in that moment.
Thank you. And I can see how you're definitely making an impact, but to you, what do you feel is the biggest difference you're making?
I think the biggest difference I'm making is providing the information about COVID to schools, to different people, to the community, because there is a lot of information that's out there that's what you would classify as misinformation. And providing it's a very small thing, but providing the right information can help guide a person to make the right decisions for themselves, for their families, and in turn for the entire community. And doing that is a very it's a huge difference maker in my eyes, just because it's like the information is out there. Helping to provide it is I feel like something very small, but it can have an insurmountable application when you provide it in the right way.
Great. Thank you so much. And finally, Brandi, I'm going to ask you the same question, a typical day. If there is such a thing for your line of work as well. And if you can end by letting me know what sort of difference do you feel you're making and how?
Okay, so I'll use the example for a typical day and someone who works at our multi-service center. Those are the individuals who are providing services such as utility assistance, rental assistance, or food pantry. Currently, due to the pandemic, we're offering our services virtually. So our staff are typically doing about 3 to 4 appointments, similar to like what Delissa said. However, if an individual needs food pantry services, obviously we can't offer that virtually, so they're coming into the center for that. However, we may have something scheduled, but because we work in, they don't really want to call it emergency assistance, but technically it kind of is emergency assistance, people really needing rental assistance or needing food. We may have a walk-in that may be homeless, or something else may happen where we do have to adjust our needs for that day just to make sure that we can see if someone walks in and they're homeless, we don't want to turn them away. We want to be able to at least provide them resources and give them some food. So we do have to adjust a lot depending on what the day looks like. We work in a team environment, just like Delissa. So if someone else calls in sick, then our staff have to cover those appointments. So a lot of coverage or even flexibility. And we have multiple locations throughout the county. We have 4. So again, sometimes adjusting even what center they report to for the day may change. And that can be affected by COVID if there's quarantines or some other reasoning. So there's a lot of moving pieces going on in human services to make sure that we get the job done each day.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for the work that you do. It's very important and obviously makes a difference. Some great questions today. And I appreciate everybody's answers to our question and answer session. So thank you very much. So if this is a career that has sparked your interest, we want to end by letting you know some of the opportunities designed for students, where you can explore human services careers in person. We would love for you to take advantage of these opportunities if you think career in human services might be right for you in the future. You can check our event website at www.careerexpokc.org, where you can find more than 70 opportunities for students to do job shadowing, internships, and volunteer work. And this will also help you learn more about the public service careers in our area. So thank you, students. Thank you, presenters, for your time today. It was sincerely a pleasure moderating this session with you. I'd like to wish you all a great rest of your day, and goodbye.